welcome to SI Now's mock draft special. I'm Maggie Gray alongside Andrew Perloff, looking like he just took a time machine back from 1974. Today we're putting two of our best and brightest head to head. They are going to choose the entire first round of the 2017 NFL Draft. So who are these brilliant minds who will be making these selections? Well, it's Emily Kaplan from the MMQB and Chris Burke from SI.com. They're both here with us. Now, this is going to go fast and furious. We are not giving them the requisite 10 minutes that the real teams get. They're going to alternate making picks. Andrew, one would ask, what are you doing here?
I'm here to provide a sort of early 80s, early days at ESPN covering the draft. It's an homage to my friend Dr. Z, Mel Kiper in the Trev Albert era, really kind of like that 80s perspective on the draft. I'm not going to be like Schefter working the phones telling you who's going to be picked. I'm going to straight out analyze their picks, and I'm going to grade the pickers possibly harshly. Okay,
well, we'll have to see. I mean, why would we want up-to-the-date and current analysis so we can get stuff from the 80s? I mean, that makes absolute perfect sense.
Yeah, I love Tony Manders.
Yeah, very much. All right, well, Andrew's going to play judge and jury. He's going to grade the picks as we go. So without further ado, Emily, Chris, let's get started. Emily, you, on behalf of the Cleveland Browns, are picking first. Who are you taking?
Yeah, me, Sashi Brown. I have decided not to get crazy, not to do something nuts just yet. I'm going with a safe pick, and I'm picking the edge rusher from Texas A&M, Myles Garrett, who is just about a sure thing to be an all-pro one day.
All right, of course, Myles Garrett, the junior out of Texas A&M, career 31 sacks, 47 tackles for a loss. He's a first-team All-American. We know all about him. Andrew, how would you grade that pick?
Well, I'm very nervous. I feel like when people grade draft picks, they give the highest pick an A every time. But the worst team is always making that pick, so shouldn't they have the worst front office? So they should get a bad grade. But I'll give him an A. Myles Garrett, I know he didn't get a sack every game. He got double-teamed a lot. He's been the best player in college football for 2 years, maybe. Love the pick. A.
The comparison is to Julius Peppers, and that's something that the Browns could certainly use. Love that his brother was Sean Williams, the former NBA player. And did you know, a really big fan of the movie Jurassic Park. All right, Chris Burke, you're up next with the second pick. You are picking for the 49ers. Who are you selecting?
It's a little tougher than number one. Number one was pretty easy. I think John Lynch might want to take John Lynch himself as a player, but we're going to go with Solomon Thomas, defensive lineman from Stanford. Thought about a handful of other guys here, Jonathan Allen, Jamal Adams. Thinks Thomas fits in. They're transitioning to a 4-3 defense. I think he makes a lot of sense for them up front as they try to build in the trenches a little bit.
All right, Andrew Perloff, Solomon Thomas, obviously the fantastic defensive end from Stanford. What grade do you give this?
I know Chris Burke. I've known him for a long time. I know the 49ers. I'm giving it a B. He's a great player. We all saw him beat up Mitchell Trubisky in the bowl game. I love him as a player, but I just feel like the 49ers are not thrilled to be taking Solomon Thomas right here.
Well, of course, he's familiar with him because he's right in the Bay Area going to Stanford. He does have a little bit of that knock Chris Burke as a tweener. Some have called him that. Does that carry the same kind of negative connotation that it used to?
I don't think so, and especially talking about a team that was in a 3-4 and now playing a 4-3 probably for the most part this year, and I think he's a guy that can line up outside. I think his best spot's probably in that 3-tech role as a tackle, getting some penetration inside, but the way the NFL offenses are so versatile these days, I think you need those guys up front that can kind of mix and match. And now San Francisco, if you drop Thomas in there with DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, they've got a handful of them.
All right, let's go back to Emily Kaplan of the MMQB for pick number 3. Emily, you're picking on behalf of the Chicago Bears, and coincidentally, you are in Chicago today. Who are the Bears going to be taking with the third pick?
Yeah, so if they have conviction about any of these quarterbacks, they should take one at number 3. I just don't think they have conviction. I've been to a lot of Bears games last year, fortunate for me, obviously. And I know that the one position that would immediately upgrade them besides quarterback is safety. So there's 2 options. It's Jamal Adams or Malik Hooker. But if you're Ryan Pace, and this isn't a make it or break it year, but it's close, you have to be a little safer after you have kind of risky picks in Kevin White and Leonard Floyd in the past. So you go with a guy who's a little healthier, and that's Jamal Adams of LSU.
Yeah, of course, the LSU junior. His father, George Adams, was a running back for the Giants for many years. Andrew Perloff, how would you grade the pick?
A safety at 3. I know it hasn't happened since '91 that one's gone that high. I don't like it. You don't take a safety at 3. There's reasons. Think of John Fox's great defenses in the past. come on, they had defensive ends, they pass rush. I wouldn't go that deep into the secondary. That's he's great. And I understand, I really think that this makes a lot of sense for them, but I still would have gone for more of a home run shot and maybe taken a guy up front. Okay. I'll give it a C, actually.
Emily, do you want to defend your pick?
You know what? You can give me a C now, but you can also go with Reuben Foster would be an option, but Jonathan Allen's probably the better option. But look, shoulder injuries. Can you take a guy with serious injuries for 3 years in a row?
It's a really great question. It brings us to our next pick, the fourth team. Team picking fourth, rather. That would be the Jacksonville Jaguars. Chris Burke, you are picking for the Jags. Doug Marrone, new head coach. Where do you think they're going to look?
I'm going to try and stay right in that B grade range, I think, for the most of this draft, if I can.
Way to aim high.
It's going to be a similar argument here, I think, to what I just made for the 49ers, because my pick is going to be Jonathan Allen, defensive lineman from Alabama. And you look at that Jacksonville front, and they brought in Calais Campbell. They've got Malik Jackson there, Dante Fowler, Yannick Ngakoue. This gives them another guy who can play inside out. And to me, this feels like a very Tom Coughlin-esque pick. He's a guy who wants to build up front, get that defensive line to have a lot of depth, guys that you can run in and out of rotation. And Allen was really good from a variety of alignments last year for Alabama.
Yeah, of course, Tom Coughlin wrote a defensive line to the tune of 2 Super Bowls with the New York Giants. Listen, Emily mentioned the shoulder issues with Jonathan Allen. So with that in mind, Andrew, how would you grade the pick?
Well, there's some doctors who think that won't hit him for a long time, an arthritic shoulder. But I would have given A- to Jonathan Allen. I agree. Tom Coughlin, lineman, no-brainer. And, man, when you watch him play, Alabama has how many pros on that defense? He was the one who looked like the man among boys. I love Jonathan Allen.
Yeah, first-team All-American. Of course, the senior, the Bednarik Award winner as well. Okay, let's keep it moving here. Let's round out the top 5. We're going back to Emily Kaplan here. The Tennessee Titans on the clock. Emily, who are you taking?
Firstly, I have no fear of you, Perloff. I will take all of your C's. Look, this is a team with a very obvious area of need, and that is cornerback. They just let go of Jason McCourty. The only proven corner is Logan Ryan, who's really a slot guy or number 2 guy. So they go with the best corner in this draft, and in my opinion, that's Marshawn Lattimore from Ohio State.
Yeah, really hard to argue with you there. Of course, from Ohio State, the only issue is maybe he had some hamstring problems throughout his career. But Andrew, how would you grade this one?
First of all, New York, the draft not in New York, but they are booing so loudly because they wanted Lattimore so bad at 6. I'm going to give it an A, and it's not just a makeup grade. I think he's a great quarterback, too. I agree it's an area of need. And pretty much, Emily, you could have picked anyone there. I was going to give you an A as long as I'd heard of him, so good job.
Let's go to our 6th pick, and that is going to be Chris Burke. This one belongs to the Jets. Chris, what are you going to do with the pick?
Well, it only belongs to me, the Jets, for a moment here, because I'm sending it over to Emily. We worked the phones a little bit here, and we've got a trade. Washington's coming up to take this pick. The Jets are going to drop down to 17 and wait their turn, add another pick or 2 later on. So, yeah, I'll defer back to Emily here.
Okay, well, listen, the Jets need all the help they can get. Andrew also working the phones. I don't even think his is on, actually. I think the battery died on that hours ago. All right, Emily, you're back on the clock now as Washington. Who are you taking?
I am so ready for all of the hot takes from Andrew, from all of the media everywhere. We're getting weird here. I don't know what's going on with Kirk Cousins. I don't even know who's running the Redskins, but we know that we need a quarterback of the future. We are scared that someone's going to take the guy we like the most, and that's Mitchell Trubisky from UNC. So we're jumping in front of everyone to get him here at number 6. Let me hear it. Let me hear it.
The man they call Mr. Biscuit with 13 career starts. Andrew?
You're Washington. It's taking you so. I know there's this dance going on with Kirk Cousins. It's taking you so long to get a guy who can run your offense. You kind of figured out this messy offseason, and now you're taking Mitchell Trubisky? Oh, my gosh.
I'm trying to adopt a role-playing here. This just seems like something they might do.
You're right. By the way, if there's one team who could do this, it could be the Redskins. I am in shock. I mean, this is bigger than anything that's ever happened in any draft.
Ever. Emily, let's stop here for a second, though. Jay Gruden, obviously quarterback guru as well as head coach of this team. Why do you think of all the quarterbacks he thinks that Trubisky would have the highest ceiling?
Well, look, he has the pedigree. He grew up as a really prized recruit. It just never got on the field. Those are the questions you have of why were you only a one-year starter? But teams have been so impressed with him with his recall, the way he works the chalkboard in all of these meetings. And he's just going to be able to proficiently run that offense. And after learning for 1 year under Kirk Cousins, it's a perfect situation for him to start in 2018.
We must press on. Let's do so with the 7th pick. So we're going to stick with...
My grade, by the way, F for that. That's an F. That's an F. Yeah.
That's exactly what I expected.
Yes, that is an F because it's the Redskins, and you should have stuck with Cousins.
Wow, I was
We'll see.
so hyped up in the
Yeah.
trade. I forgot to even ask you about the grade. An
Yes.
F. Well, that one might come back to bite you, Andrew Perloff. So I guess for the Chargers, am I going back to Emily on this one? Emily,
You are.
the Chargers are up. They're obviously have their new home in Los Angeles. Who is going to be their first draft pick after the move?
As the boomer bust drafter here, this is a boom. This is a perfect fit for this system. Look, they're going to bring this new cover 3 scheme that Gus Bradley is the new defensive coordinator. He's going to find that free safety that he covets, the guy who can be the Earl Thomas that he had in Seattle, and that is Malik Hooker of Ohio State.
Yep, Malik Hooker, obviously Ohio State. It was an embarrassment of riches for Ohio State. Malik Hooker, Andrew, how do you like that fit?
Oh, I love it. He's a great playmaker. I actually would even consider him over Adams just because of his ball skills. Obviously, Emily loves safeties in Ohio State defensive back so far. It's a great fit. I'm going to give that one an A-.
Yeah, Lattimore already off the board. Malik Hooker is next to go from Ohio State. Of course, he was an All-American. 7 interceptions in 2016. Okay, let's keep it moving here. The 8th pick now is the Carolina Panthers. Chris Burke, what do the Panthers need?
Well, I'm sitting here with Leonard Fournette still on the board, and I know there's there's disagreement about where his stock exactly is, but I'll take a 240-pounder with 4.5 speed, a guy that can break out a play anytime you hand him the football. We're going to take Leonard Fournette, running back from LSU, at 8. It's an interesting fit with Cam Newton, but at the heart of that Carolina offense is a power run attack, and I think that's an ideal fit for Leonard Fournette. Gives them a guy that can pair with Jonathan Stewart and then have him take over for Jonathan Stewart in the very near future.
What do you think, Andrew? How do you like Leonard Fournette, the power back out of LSU, going to the Carolina Panthers?
I don't like it. I love it, Maggie. I love it.
You had me going there
Yeah,
for a moment.
you got to take some pressure off Cam Newton. That's perfect. Give it to him 25 times a game, 20 times a game. You know, obviously, I agree with Chris. There are character questions. Does he love football? But this is a great pick. I love Fournette to the Panthers. Cam is back.
Okay, any concern about the ankle issues with Fournette? He only played 7 games last season.
Maggie, why are you being a
downer?
killjoy here? Yes.
Okay. Well, let's keep it moving then, and we'll put my issues and concerns about his ankle aside. We're going to go down to the 9th pick in the draft. We go back to Emily Kaplan. You are now the Bengals, Emily, and who are you taking?
What's made the Bengals defense so good for so long is their drafting, especially in the front 7. So they have Vontaze Burfict, but he's missed 22 of the last 48 games, either with injury or suspension. They signed Kevin Minter from the Cardinals, but only on a 1-year deal. I'm taking the best linebacker in this draft, and that's Reuben Foster of Alabama. He's going to go next to Burfict next year and eventually take over that spot.
You gotta like the Butkus Award winner for top linebacker, first team All-American was Reuben Foster. Obviously, Andrew, he had that situation at the Combine, not just questions about the shoulder, which he did tear a rotator cuff and had to have surgery, but also he got sent home from the Combine because of an altercation that he got into, a verbal spat, really, with a hospital worker. So where are you giving this grade?
You know, I don't think that necessarily hurts him as much as people thought. I think he's done okay since then explaining that. My only concern is, as the resident Bengals expert,
Yes, you are the biggest fan.
It is a great fit, and I think he'll be a very good NFL player, but you can get a linebacker later. I wondered if they needed a little help in some other spots. I might have gotten a wide receiver here for Andy Dalton.
Okay, let's keep it moving. We're reaching now to the 10th pick in the draft, so rounding out that top 10, it's the Buffalo Bills. We go to Chris Burke for it. Chris, who are the Bills selecting?
Well, I've got to get another weapon for this offense, and especially the passing game. And so I'm going to take the best wide receiver in this draft class, Corey Davis from Western Michigan, and drop him into that offense. I know there's a little concern about the ankle. The Bills have Sammy Watkins with that foot issue that keeps flaring up, so maybe that scares them a little bit. But I think Davis is the most NFL ready of the wide receivers in this draft. I think he's the most versatile of the wide receivers in this draft, and he's a guy that you can plug in and hope to get 1,000 yards from as a rookie. So I'm going to put him in that offense, give Tyrod Taylor more options, and really spread the field the way that they'd like to.
We know that Tyrod Taylor likes to take shots downfield. You had Davis, 5,000 career yards, Andrew, at Western Michigan, and of course, 51 career touchdowns. How would you grade this pick?
I give it an A-. I like it. He would be my top receiver as well. It's interesting now that you have Davis and you have Watkins. You have LaShawn McCoy, obviously. You have a tight end. So no more excuses with Tyrod Taylor here. With that complement of skill players, he's got to succeed, and that's giving him every chance. I like the pick.
Well, we'll have to see, because this is a wide receiver group. Each one of them has injury history if this is the pick. And of course, Robert Woods gone from the team after many years. Okay, let's keep it moving. The 11th pick goes to the New Orleans Saints. Emily Kaplan, what's happened in the Big Easy?
There's no way we're not going defense with this pick. We're just going to be stupid if we do that. We obviously need a cornerback, but it's a great year for corners, and we might still get Malcolm Butler. So I am giving Cam Jordan some help. One of the best pass rushers in this draft is Derek Barnett of Tennessee. He has 32 career sacks, which broke Reggie White's record, including 13 last year. And you just don't break Reggie White's record unless you got some skills. So he's going to give some production to the Saints, which they need a lot.
No pressure or anything. Just comparisons to Reggie White before you've even taken an NFL snap, but I understand why they're there. What do you give that grade, Andrew?
I give that a strong A. I think he's wonderful. I mean, my only concern is the Saints keep drafting defensive players and they keep signing defensive players and nothing changes. Seems like there's something almost cultural there about defense. Since their Super Bowl year, they haven't been able to figure it out. But this gives them their best chance to succeed.
Just unbelievable. All right, let's keep going. And Chris Burke, you're now on the clock. It's the second time the Browns will be choosing in the first round. That's the 12th pick. They already took Myles Garrett with the first overall pick. Chris, who did they take with the 12th pick?
Yeah, they got their new defensive centerpiece in Garrett with that first pick. I'm going to give them their new franchise guy on offense and take Deshaun Watson, the Clemson quarterback here.
Second quarterback off the board in our mock draft. Why Watson, Chris?
Yeah, and Trubisky's gone, and certainly he would have been in consideration. I think Patrick Mahomes is a guy to consider here too, but one of the big things I like about Watson is that experience and the fact that I think he can step in and compete for that job right away. The Browns need someone to start next year. I think Patrick Mahomes is more of a sit and develop type guy. I don't know that the Browns have the quarterbacks in front of them to allow them to draft Mahomes and be that patient. So I think you get Watson, a guy who's as NFL ready, I think, as any quarterback in this class, can come in and maybe be your guy from day one there.
Andrew, do you like this pick, and what grade do you give it?
I give it an A-. I like it a lot. I guess the only question about him is coming out of a spread, which always makes me nervous. I'm actually really surprised that Chris and Emily didn't hit each other up on the phone. Maybe the Browns try and sneak up for Trubisky. I kind of thought that's the direction they would go. But if they come away with this with Myles Garrett and Deshaun Watson, you're psyched if you're a Browns fan.
Absolutely. Could potentially give them the franchise quarterback that they've been looking for so long. He played in 2 national championship games and, of course, won 1. All right, let's head back to the board now. It's the 13th pick. It's the Arizona Cardinals. Emily Kaplan, we know Carson Palmer's, well, we weren't even sure if he was coming back this year. Who do you think the Cardinals will take?
Yeah, you hinted at it there. And my prediction for this draft is that the quarterback market will be dominated by teams who don't need someone this year, but need someone of the future. Pat Mahomes is the hot name. I've spent some time with him. I love the kid. I think he has such a bright future. And I know Bruce Arians loves him too. So we're getting him here before anyone else, Texans, can get him. And he's our guy.
Okay, so, of course, the Texas Tech quarterback, the junior, you mentioned Deshaun Watson came out of a spread system. I mean, this is the air raid here, straight up for Pat Mahomes. So how do you grade this?
It's an even harder spread system to come out. We saw Jared Goff was lost coming in, and we could go through history. That's a concern. As Chris mentioned, he's going to have to sit for a couple years. So I guess the question is where the Cardinals feel they are as a franchise. Can they wait for Mahomes? Is Bruce Arians under pressure there? I don't know. I'm going to give it a B+. I love Mahomes. Obviously love the talent. I think he's a good kid. I think he's going to do really well. And obviously, how can you not love watching him in college? But, man, that footwork needs help, so he's going to need time.
All right, Andrew, you're going to get excited for this one. You're from the Philadelphia area.
Yes.
The Eagles are now on the clock. Chris Burke, the draft is happening in Philadelphia. You are picking for the Eagles. The Bluebirds are out already. You haven't even made the selection. Who are you taking?
It's a lot of pressure. Yeah, I like the feel of the booze there. It's authentic. 3 quarterbacks gone already, wide receiver, running back. This is good news for the Eagles because I think they need to go defense. So the more offensive guys in the top 13, the better. And we're going to get them one of the better, more athletic playmakers on defense in this draft class, Haason Reddick, the linebacker from Temple. I think they're happy with what they've gotten from Jordan Hicks there, but the rest of that linebacking core still needs an overhaul. That feels like they've been trying to trade Michael Kendricks for 4 seasons now. Reddick's a guy who can help them in the middle, help against the run, maybe even drop down and play some of that wide 9 Jim Schwartz pass rush type defense for them off the edge. I think that he's someone who can contribute in a lot of ways, and I really like his value at this spot. So Haason Reddick.
What do you think?
Great story. I get nervous about hometown guys, but not this one. Seriously, like everybody in the mock drafts, I feel like this is you might as well print up jerseys for Reddick Eagles jerseys. This feels like the most natural fit in the entire first round. I think he'd be line up with Hicks there, be a great linebacking core. Love it. I'm giving it an A.
17.5 sacks over his 4-year career at Temple. Very versatile player. All right, we're going to keep it going here now. Rounding out the top 15, Indianapolis is on the clock. Emily Kaplan, what do you think? Some help for Andrew Luck, or are they going to look elsewhere?
No, we need defense. So much defense. Chris Ballard's job is literally to reinvent that entire defense. So I'm giving them the best defensive player available. And in my opinion, that's UCLA's Karis McKinley. Now, when I asked a scout about him in October, he had this quote, that he's a freak athlete. He could be the next DeMarcus Ware. If you're building a defense, the next DeMarcus Ware is probably a good place to start.
Andrew, what grade do you give this?
I'm going to give it a B+ because of the shoulder. Just, you might have to wait. Ready for training camp, ready for week 1 maybe. I just remember Shaq Lawson last year and how difficult that was.
Okay, let's keep it going now. 16th pick overall, it belongs to Baltimore. Chris Burke, the Ravens, where are they looking for help?
I think this is another spot where you could see a pass rusher go, but I'm going to dip back into that wide receiver group and take Mike Williams from Clemson and get Joe Flacco, a big receiver on the outside. You know, they've got a speed guy in Mike Wallace. They've got Rashad Perriman, who's kind of a developing speed guy too. They really need a big physical receiver who can punish cornerbacks and make some of those catches on slants, still be a downfield threat. We know how much Flacco likes to stretch the field vertically. You know, I think this is a great fit for this offense, and I think Joe Flacco would love throwing to Mike Williams, especially in the red zone.
He's 6 foot 4 inches, over 215 pounds, physical. The body control is there. How do you like this pick? What grade are you giving it?
I give it a B+. I like it a lot. I love the red zone aspect of it. You know, I worry, Mike Williams, he's a guy who's obviously fantastic in big games, but he's always making contested catches. He's not really fast, but I think in this receiver core, that can work, and I think that's exactly what they need. So I like him specifically to Baltimore.
Okay, moving on. Number 17 now. Of course, this is a trade from earlier when Washington and the New York Jets flip-flop. So Chris Burke will go back to you because you are now picking for the New York Jets. Where are they looking?
Well, I think this works out pretty well for the Jets. They go down 11 spots, and they get a guy here that I think they could consider in the top 10, and that's O.J. Howard, tight end from Alabama. And this is as much a best player available pick at this point as anything, but it's also someone who can help them in the run game. Obviously, we know what he can do when he's kind of turned loose in that passing attack. Not entirely sure who's throwing him passes yet in New York, but you know, it's a great weapon for them, both in run and pass offense. And so to get him at 17, I think is a huge steal.
2 100-yard games, Andrew, most notably the 2 national championship games that he played in. He was the MVP of that game in 2015. What grade are you giving this?
A+.
A++.
I mean, because he fell that low. You know, I think a lot of people think upside-wise, this could be the most explosive offensive player in this draft.
Let's move on. The 18th pick, well, it's the second pick of the first round for the Tennessee Titans. With the 5th pick, we had them taking Marshawn Lattimore, the cornerback from Ohio State. So, Chris, where will the Titans look with their second pick in the first round?
Well, I think the 2 positions that they'd love to address early on are cornerback and wide receiver. And you mentioned we gave them Lattimore at 5. John Ross is sitting there for them at 18. So that's going to be the pick here. John Ross, the wide receiver from Washington. Again, some health questions here, but we saw what he did at the Combine. We know what he can do in the open field. Just such an explosive, electrifying player. And he's really good in the red zone, too. Another guy to open up that offense for Tennessee, get Marcus Mariota someone else to throw to. I think he's a great fit for that scheme.
All right, well, he didn't get the island. We know that, but he did run a 4.22 in the 40. It's the fastest time ever in history. We know also, Chris alluded to it, the injury history, the meniscus, the ACL, both 2 separate injuries in 2 separate years. What grade are you giving this?
Chris. We've talked about this. Don't overrate. I don't want to hear combine numbers. This is a draft. That was good in February. We're not really all in on John Ross because of the 40, are we? I know the tape is good, but it's not number 18 good. I'm going to give this a C. I think people are overhyping him because of the fast combine time. And we saw the graphics when he ran that. The other guys who run this speed have not been successful in the NFL. I think he's better than Marquise Goodwin, but he's in that genre of player. I think this is too high.
Okay, let's keep it moving. Let's move on now. We have the 19th pick, and we do go back to Emily Kaplan. For this one, Emily Kaplan, who is Tampa Bay taking?
Well, HBO is going to be very happy with us because we have Hard Knocks this year, and probably the most interesting thing is our kicker competition. So let's give them a really fun guy to follow, and that's Christian McCaffrey, the running back / do a little bit of everything from Stanford. Obviously, Tampa Bay has made a lot of additions to their offense. You know, Mike Evans is there, Deshaun Jackson, Jameis Winston has his weapons, but Christian McCaffrey in the run game takes us to that next level.
All right, Christian McCaffrey, of course, was a runner-up for the Heisman in 2015. Andrew, how do you like this pick?
You know, I like Christian McCaffrey. I don't know. I feel like this might have been Dalvin Cook's spot. I mean, they have Charles Sims who can do a lot of McCaffrey things, and they like to run between the tackles. And maybe I'm falling into the cliches about a bigger back, but I worry, you know, I think they're going to want at some point a guy who can run every play. McCaffrey's awesome, though. So I'm going to give it a B+, but I'm not sure that fit. I'm not sure that's exactly how the Bucs will do it.
All right, 20th pick. Can you believe we've reached the 20 spot? Let's go back to Chris Burke. It is the Denver Broncos who are on the clock. Chris, who are they selecting?
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier about the board falling nicely for some teams, and I think it's done that for Denver because they're sitting here with their choice of offensive linemen. They've got to get better up front, and I'm going to take Garrett Bowles, the offensive tackle from Utah here. I think his athleticism makes him a great fit in that run game. They can run behind him, get him outside. You know, you use those one cutbacks and get up the field behind him. And look, they need to get better at tackle. They have Donald Stevenson, Menelik Watson. I mean, they don't have a lot of long-term answers there. Bowles is kind of a plug-and-play type of player up front, and I think the Broncos will be thrilled to see him there at 20.
What a fascinating story,
Yeah.
This guy. 25 years old he'll be when he's a rookie. Of course, troubled childhood, even spent some time in jail. He's found religion. He's straightened his life out. He's married. He's got a kid on the way. The Broncos would be getting a very experienced and someone who's kind of been there, done that, if you will. Don't have to worry about any of that rookie kind of transition period. What would you give this pick, though?
I've been giving out a lot of A's. I'm giving this one an A, too. He's probably my favorite offensive lineman in the draft. You know, just look at the clips of him. He's mean looking. And Denver definitely really needs help there. This makes a lot of sense.
Okay, we're outside the top 20. The 21st pick, the Detroit Lions have that pick. Emily, what are they going to do with it?
Thought about taking someone, but then Jerry Jones called, so we're trading back and we're giving it to the Cowboys.
Okay, Cowboys are taking over this pick from the Lions. So, Chris, what are they going to do with it?
Well, yeah, Jerry Jones, we've been sitting here watching all the Marshawn Lattimore went at 5, and then there hasn't been a cornerback in the next 15 picks. So we're going to move up from 28, go to 21. We need help in the secondary. And Lattimore's teammate, Gary Conley, is a guy that I think could be a top 15 type talent in this class. He's someone that can play man-to-man. You can play him in zone. He's not as physical as Lattimore. He's probably not going to help you as much against the run, but the coverage skills are there all day to be a really good defensive back in the NFL. And position of need, value, sort of checks off all those boxes. So Gary Conley to the Cowboys.
Third Ohio State cornerback off the board. Now, what grade do you give it?
Okay, somebody has to be relying on somebody else in Ohio State. All three of these guys can't be that good. You know, I'm not even sure Conley will be there at 21. I give it a B for that very reason. You know, I get nervous about great defenses like Alabama's defense where everyone's playing off each other. It just seems suspicious to me that they're all that high of a talent. You're right, though. The Cowboys do need a defensive back. I'm not sure this is the one they would take, but it's not bad. A B.
Okay, you're giving that a B. Of course, Conley had the big interception in the national championship game. We remember him from that. So let's move on. The Dolphins, 22nd pick. Chris, we're going to stick with you. Where does Miami need to look in this draft?
Well, they took Laramie Tunsil last year. I'm going to go right back to the offensive line here and take Forrest Lamp, a guard tackle from Western Kentucky. I mean, I think he probably deserves a shot to play tackle at the next level. I think he's good enough to be there. With the Dolphins, it makes more sense. They're given their needs, what they have up front to move him inside. And I don't think it's any secret that there's a lot of hype around him and his abilities to move in there and be an impact guy. So shore up that offensive line in front of Ryan Tannehill, make the run game even better, and get some help.
All right, the senior for the Hilltoppers. Andrew, what do you think of the Dolphins using back-to-back first-round picks on offensive linemen in consecutive years?
This is a former Hilltoppers basketball coach, Jack.
Is that right?
I love it.
They might want it back.
Yeah. Good one. I love it, love it, love it. I love the Dolphins are recreating the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. They're just going to run Jay Ajayi at people, get some interior help here. Very, very solid. They legitimately have a great offensive line.
23rd pick, it's the New York Giants, Emily Kaplan. What are the Giants going to do with that pick?
Do you know who else needs an offensive lineman? Eli Manning. You know who's not getting one? Eli Manning. Get stuck with Eric Flowers for another year just because I think this would be overdrafting for one of the best tackles in the draft. It's not a good year for offensive linemen. The Giants also need a tight end. It happens to be the best year for tight ends probably in the past decade. So they don't have to draft Cedar Grove High School, New Jersey boy, David Njoku, who here. They can go for the best player available. This doesn't seem very Jerry Reese-like, but what if they get Dalvin Cook?
Ooh, okay. Listen, Paul Perkins is now starting running back for them. They really haven't had a great run game for many, many years. Dalvin Cook, the issue with Cook is not his ability, but there are some character concerns that go back to high school with being in a big market, potentially be another pitfall. But what do you give this pick? What grade?
Well, Giants don't take character guys, but I think if Dalvin Cook is there, they have to take him. I think run game is a team thing. You need a great line. But I've been looking at the Giants running backs for the last couple of years saying, why don't they get a guy? And they're pretty happy if Cook falls to them. I'm giving it an A.
Let's move on to the Raiders. 24th pick, Chris Burke. They're not in Vegas yet. They're still in Oakland. Who are they taking at that first-round pick?
Well, we know the offense is pretty good. The defense has a lot of building blocks. We're kind of in a spot here where I think we might see a run on defensive backs. Had Conley go off the board a few picks ago. I'm going to give him Tre'Davious White, the cornerback from LSU. Another athletic cornerback, someone who could help you outside, maybe kick down in the slot and give you some help there too. And again, it's another team that really just has to get better in the defensive backfield if they're going to make that leap from playoff contender to Super Bowl contender. And so getting a guy like White helps them do that.
Andrew?
Wow, it's pretty solid and predictable for the Raiders. I like when they get a guy with a huge 40 time, but they already have a million receivers. I actually thought they might even go for a bigger cornerback, like a Kevin King type, but that's a solid B+. They need a cornerback. I think that's right around where White was going to go. I give it a B+.
Okay, B+ for the Raiders. 25th pick, it is the Houston Texans, Emily Kaplan. What do you think Bill O'Brien's going to want this time?
Poor Bill O'Brien. I think he wanted one of these quarterbacks, maybe Patrick Mahomes. But look, if you're going to go with Tom Savage, you have to protect him. So they are going to take the best offensive lineman still available, and that's Ryan Ramczyk of Wisconsin. Now, the big thing with Ramczyk is his medicals. He's had a lot of problems, but there's no doubt about his talent, and I think he can protect Tom Savage / the next 7 quarterbacks of the Texans over the next few years.
Yeah, take an offensive lineman. Who's he going to be protecting? Who knows? Ramczyk, interesting kind of circuitous route to get to Wisconsin. Went to 3 other schools on the way there. A little bit older, a little bit more seasoned. What grade do you give this pick?
It makes perfect sense. All the linemen are a little bit weird, a little bit flawed, as Emily said. So this is probably the most solid choice here. I don't know. You had to go this way. I give it an A-.
Okay. 26 overall, the Seahawks. Chris Burke. What's Seattle going to do?
Well, I'm going to take a guy here that Andrew mentioned as a Raiders possibility at 24 and get Kevin King, the cornerback from Washington. Sidney Jones, I think, would have been the perfect fit for the Seattle defense if he had not gotten injured during his pro day. And Kevin King's not a carbon copy of Sidney Jones, but he brings a lot of similar things to the table. Size, speed, he can play physically like Seattle likes to have its corners do. So another team that just is lacking talent outside, and maybe even more so if they trade Richard Sherman. They need a cornerback number one at that point. And I think King gives them that sort of upside.
What grade are you giving this?
It's become kind of a draft cliche, the Seahawks and long defensive backs. Of course they're going to take Kevin King if he's there. It makes a lot of sense. Although, part of me wonders if the Seahawks think they can get defensive backs later and coach them up. Okay. That's my only concern there. So I would give it a B+.
Okay, B+. Let's move on. The 27th pick belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs. Emily Kaplan, where's KC looking?
Yeah, this is another team that could have gone quarterback, except their top targets were already taken. So, look, Derek Johnson is 34 years old, coming off his second Achilles injury, a serious one, too. They're going to go linebacker. This seems like a very John Dorsey pick, in my opinion. Gerard Davis from Florida. He has the highest character grades that I've heard in a while. Guys just love him. He's a fighter. He's a competitor. I think he'll play great for the Kansas City brand of football.
Okay, I like it. I mean, he had some injuries, but still voted second team all SEC. Clearly a lot of respect there. What grade are you going to give the Florida senior?
Yawn. You're so right, Emily. John Dorsey's totally taking this guy, and no one's going to care. The Chiefs are debuting the NFL season against the Patriots, and no one's going to care about the Chiefs. They're going to plug him in there, play solid football, be 11-5, and be out in the second round of the playoffs.
And the world turns. One more revolution.
A-.
Okay, we had a trade earlier, so let's go back to it. You guys flip-flop the Cowboys and the Lions. So now, Emily, you're back on the board here. You're picking for the Detroit Lions. Who are you taking?
We need front seven help. And look, this is one of my personal favorite guys in the entire draft. I spent a little time with him in October. It's TJ Watt from Wisconsin.
Oh.
And all I can think of when I meet this kid is he is his big brother in personality. It's actually crazy. He's only been playing linebacker for about a year now. He actually switched from tight end, just like JJ. He's obsessed with gains. He's so cliche. I think his upside is tremendous, and that's why he's sneaking into the first round here.
Okay, this would be the third Watt brother to be drafted. Of course, JJ, who you mentioned, the three-time Defensive Player of the Year. Derek was a 6th-round pick for the Chargers. So what grade would you give TJ Watt?
If his name was TJ Perloff, I do not think we would be drafting him at number 28.
No, he wouldn't even be anywhere near
I think he's got a little bit of the JJ effect, and I think Emily mentioned JJ. I don't think you can mention TJ Watt without him. I feel maybe a little high for him, but, you know, listen, I saw the same games. He's awesome. I'm going to give it a B+.
All right, Emily, we're going back to you for pick 29, the Green Bay Packers on the clock. Where are they looking?
All right, I think they need to go defense, and I think they need to go into the secondary. They obviously lost Micah Hyde in free agency, so they're going to go, and this might be a little overdrafting for him. It might surprise some people, but I think this is a trendy pick here. It's Chidobe Awuzie from Colorado. He's one of the most versatile cornerbacks in this draft. He calls himself a cornerbacker that thinks like a Mike linebacker. He's just trying to show off how much he loves to hit, and I really think Dom Capers is going to have a lot of fun playing with him back there in that defense.
All right. Awuzie, love it, hate it? What's your grade?
Huge props for Emily for pronouncing that and even having
better than I did, Emily.
Yeah, he's hot right now. I like it. I like him a little bit more than some of the other cornerbacks that they might have been looking at that spot. I'm going to give that another A-. I'm giving a lot of A-.
You're giving a lot of A-minuses and a lot of B+.
But I trust Ted Thompson. I trust the Packers. I think that's the direction the Packers are going to go defense, and that's a good pick.
Okay, let's go to the 30th pick. It's the Steelers. Chris Burke. What's happening in Pittsburgh? Where are they looking?
Well, we really considered TJ Perloff, I'll tell you that much.
He's way 5th round, 6th round.
Football intelligence, baby.
It's a 2018 prospect, maybe.
I am going to end the Jabril Peppers slide here and take Jabril Peppers, safety, I guess, from Michigan. He calls himself a safety. I think that's where he slots in at the next level. He's an interesting fit here because Sean Davis really played well for Pittsburgh last year and was kind of an interchangeable piece in that safety spot too, but Peppers, I think, can team with him, give them even more options defensively, cover in the slot if you need him to. He might even be the second best running back on that roster at the moment if he lands there behind Le'Veon Bell. So lots of things you can do with Jabril Peppers. Makes that defense a little tougher to game plan against.
And the great?
He's such a Steelers pick. Isn't he, Jabril Peppers? A guy who's tough, may not have an exact position. He's totally going to go there. I think he will go in the first round. I know he's a tweener. I think he might actually move up to linebacker or what that combo money backer position. I'm going to give it another A-. Just I love giving out A-.
You are.
It's like I'm not committing
your
to an
classes
A.
all those years.
Oh my God, I would give you an A+, Maggie.
Well, thank you very much. Of course, Peppers was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Chris Burke has compared him to Malcolm Jenkins. We'll see if he'll have that type of career. Let's go to the 31st pick. It's the Atlanta Falcons. Emily, the last time we saw the Falcons, it was blowing a lead in the Super Bowl. They need to pick up the mojo in Atlanta. Who can they take in the first round to do that?
They do, and Dan Quinn's style of play is he plays a ton of guys in the front seven. He rotates them in and out, so he wants to pick a guy here that he can use this year and to grow with Vic Beasley. There's two guys I looked at. One was Charles Harris of Missouri. He's got a real nice spin move, but I'm showing my Big Ten bias here. I actually went to Penn State, despite what I've picked with all these Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Michigan players in Taco Charlton.
Okay, Taco Charlton, of course, 10 sacks in 2016, so we have back-to-back Michigan players off the board. Andrew, what grade does this get?
I'm giving that a darn A-. I'm feeling good about it. I mean, Atlanta, I would love if they got a player like that, defensive player. If they just put the Super Bowl behind them and continue to build, that'd be a great spot.
This is a guy who's 6'6", 270 pounds, bringing all that to, of course, the NFC champs. You said the rich getting richer. Okay, the 32nd pick, not the Patriots, it's the New Orleans Saints, of course. Chris Burke, New Orleans is the second pick of the first round. Where are they going to go?
Yeah, and Derek Barnett was that first pick, so they checked off that need for a pass rusher, and now they're going to handle the cornerback need. And I'm going to give them Quincy Wilson, the cornerback from Florida. Yeah, again, we talked about how deep this draft is at cornerback, so it's sort of take your pick. Which one's your favorite here? Maybe it's Wilson, maybe it's Marlon Humphrey. But I like Wilson's game. Again, it's another big physical cornerback. I think someone who, even though he doesn't have that 4.4 speed, I think his game translates really well. I mean, that pass defense, it's another team. It feels like we keep trying to address it every year, and then try again here.
You cannot give this an A-. I'm forbidding you from giving this an A-. What are you going to give it?
I'm going to have to give you a C, Chris Burke and the Saints.
Uh-oh.
That's
ruined the curve.
Yeah, that's just
You're
a
bringing
matter
down everyone's average now, Burke. Thank you.
No, that's just to get some balance in my grades, because I know already the Twitter feedback is that I gave too many A's. And also, too, do we know
You don't have to go to
Saints
Twitter. I'm right here. You gave out too many A's. I'll tell you in
Are the
person.
Saints going to be picking here? And as I mentioned earlier, what is it with the Saints? And yeah, they're going to draft a defensive back, and yeah, it's not going to work out. So that's why I'm a little bit nervous. It's not even an impression of Quincy Wilson.
You're not even giving hope to the Saints fans. Okay, there are some notables that did not make it into the first round. So, Chris, someone like a Cam Robinson, maybe David Njoku. Why didn't these guys sneak into the first round?
Well, Cam Robinson's an interesting one, to be sure. And we saw Bowles, Lamp, and Ramczyk go. And, you know, once you get into the 20 to 32 range, if there hasn't been a surprise offensive tackle off the board at maybe 10, I think Buffalo could surprise and take one. The only reason that you might see an offensive tackle get bumped up is because once you get past that first tier, there aren't really any guys that can start for you. Emily mentioned Charles Harris. That was the other one that at 30, I sort of weighed him against Jabril Peppers and went with Peppers, but Charles Harris easily could have been a fit for Pittsburgh too.
Yeah, the defensive end from Mizzou. All right, Emily, who's the best available player now for the second round?
Well, who I really like with this first pick for the Browns would be Obi Melifonwu. I think I pronounced that correct.
Great
From
job.
UConn. I think he would be a great safety for them. He's so athletic and versatile. He might be a bit of a project, but the Browns are a bit of a project. He would work well with them.
Listen, Emily and Chris, I feel like I should give you guys a round of applause for how you made those lightning picks. The first round is over. You are off the clock. Fantastic job. Thank you, guys.
I'll give him an A-.
Shocker. All right, Andrew, before we let you go, who made the best pick of the first round?
Easy. The Jets traded down with Washington from 17 to 6. I got to give Chris and Emily a lot of credit for coming up with that.
That was creative.
Was there a little beer involved in that? It got O.J. Howard, the tight end from Alabama. He's going to be a star. That was the best pick. Oh, and Deshaun Kaiser. No action for
No
him.
Kaiser.
Were you
And
surprised?
I was a little surprised considering the arm strength.
Yeah.
You know, he looks like a pro quarterback even when he was playing in college. Don't have to worry about the system, things like that. He seemed like he was ready to step in and play. So I was a little surprised that there was no Kaiser. What about you?
Yeah, I would have given Kaiser an A- probably.
All right, Andrew, the draft just a week away. Really appreciate you playing judge, jury, and executioner here.
Am I allowed to keep this jacket, Maggie?
You know, it's blinding, frankly. We made it through 40 minutes and none of us threw up because of the jacket.
Well, maybe some viewers.
Maybe some viewers. Let Andrew know on his Twitter feed. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Enjoy the first round of the draft, and we'll check in with you tomorrow.